Just now, consider myself a pretty decent human being. Oh God! All right. Vanguard. Oh, let's put some music on. Fucking Rick Roll is playing. Oh yeah. I'm about to get trolled by these patch notes. Oh God. Angela. Asgard's assassin now swifter and sturdier than ever. Angela's survivability and mobility gets a slight boost. Assassin's charge going from 6 to 4. Oh God. And shield distance increased shield value from 300 to 350. Upon canceling your shield, increase the shield recovery rate. Oh, okay, that's not bad. That's a good buff. She needs that. She needs a buff. But the tenacity chain still kind of cooks her though, no? She needs these buffs, but the tenacity chain still cooks her combo. But at least the cooldown rate charge is lower. 6 to 4 seconds is good. She gets her shield back faster. Cool. Dino. Looks like Moongirl needs to put her big buddy on a slight diet. We're slightly reducing Devil Dino's damage, survivability, and crowd control to balance the experience of other Vanguards facing him. Knockdown effect. It's gone. It's just gone. Oh no! It's just gone. The knockdown effect on the beam is gone. It's just gone. It's just gone. That is insane. It's not gonna ground flyers anymore. It's dead ass gone. It's not gonna do that anymore. I mean, it was already pretty nerfed in the fact that, like, if you did it to a flyer, can get over here. It'll just ground it for a second. If you keep shooting them, it's not gonna keep on grounding them. But now you can play flyers into him. Damn. Reduce the percentage damage per second of the bleed effect from 3 to 1. It was 3%. Oh my God, I didn't know it was 3%. That's crazy. Increase buddy barriers cooldown from 10 to. Oh, thank God. I was saying this the other night. They need to buff the cooldown of that. The cooldown of it is too low. It's way too low. Way too low. Hold on. Let me add everybody in Discord. Patch notes time. Get in here. There you go. Increase meteor M ultimately maximum duration from 4 to 5. Increase the damage done when fully charged from 300. Oh, it's gonna do 350. That shit's gonna do 350. He can charge it for longer, and then it's gonna do 350. That's pretty good, no? Damn, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool one. Duration of increase the damage done when fully charged 300 to 350. Damn. I feel like it did more than that though before. Whatever. I guess it was early 300. She's tougher than ever. Anna gets a wait, no, it definitely is, no? One shots all support ults. Hold on. No. Something's not right here. Didn't his ult used to do more than that? Switch this to like, how much HP is Punisher? Oh, Punisher is 300. Mr. Fantastic is 350, right? Or 325, right? 375. Okay, let's try Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fenty.
I have found a great.
Oh, because the damage amp. Okay, so it does 350 base and it amplifies if you shoot. Yeah, that's how it works. But I'm about to say, like, that shit does more than that. There's no way it only does that amount. It does more than that. This is just if you suck up nothing. If I'm correct, but I don't know. Whatever. Decrease the cooldown fatal attraction from 14 to 12. That's a good buff. Because their cooldown on that grab is way too long, in my opinion. Reduce energy consumption. Because it's RNG. It's sometimes, I mean, I guess you can say it's OP if you grab like a really good character like Phoenix or something for her, but like some characters grabbing it's not even that crazy. Reduce energy consumption while defensive stance from 60 to 50 a second. Increase absorb damage energy conversion ratio to 35 to 55. Damn! Absorb damage energy conversion ratio. That's gonna be a lot. 35 to 55. That's good. Yeah, it's rogue buffs. That's really good. What?
No matter the odds,
that's really fucking good. 55? 35 to 55 is a lot. That's a lot. And her energy consumption when using defensive stats 60 second to 50 a second. That's good. They want people using that skin. Team abilities adjusted or removed. The mutant drama was cooling down a bit. Reduced the healing damage. Brother from hearts. Oh, they're nerfing her team up though. She's not gonna be a team up merchant, but she's getting buffs. Is Blade OP? I didn't read that part yet. Did Blade get buffed? I don't know. Reduce the damage percentage dealt per attack from 3% to 2%. Reduce the spell field. 55 to 25. Damn, that's a big ass nerf. That's a fat ass nerf. God damn. Okay, hey, that's a fat nerf. The team up is gone. Well, it's not gone, but that's major nerf.
No good.
All right, DPS. Oh my God, Blade is up here. Oh wow. Okay, let's go. Wait, I can count the predict. Wait, I gotta read it first. The Daywalker is ready to cover up the competition. We've slightly increased Blade's close range comp. Increased the unstoppable duration provided from each use of Scarlet Shroud from 0.1 to 1 second. What is the point of that? I don't see that. What is the point of that one? That's like less skill expression. Like, I don't know. The parry is iframes for longer, but like I already had like the timing mastered. I hit it every time. Rarely do I ever into a situation where like I fucked up my parry because I have the timing like muscle memory. I don't know. That doesn't affect me. While in sword stance, increase the initial hit damage of Daywalker dash. Oh, they buffed the dash back. Oh my God, they buffed the dash back. They reverted the nerf.
Our next victims.
And increased the damage per spin from 8 to 10. Oh, wait, that's even more than it did before, no? Oh shit, the damage of the dash is back. I can actually be boxing. I can actually use my shift mid-fight now instead of having to just keep slashing. I remember in the guide, I told you guys that like sometimes when you're in like a 1v2 or 1v3, you can't use your shift because your shift does less damage, meaning you're gonna heal less. So which was gonna get you killed. So you have no choice but to keep slashing, even though you want to apply the anti-heal. Now you can actually, it's reverted. You can actually use your shift in a fight now. Oh my God, let's go. Against some matches like fighting like Thor or Didi, you don't want to use your shift. Even if they're getting healed like crazy, you can't afford to. Because if you use your shift, it's gonna heal you less. You're just gonna die. Okay, that's a good buff. That's a good buff. Oh my God, Blade got buffed. Yes, I'm paying out the predict. I'm paying out the predict. That's a yes. That's a yes. Blade got buffed. Y'all can eat shit. Blade got buffed. Blade got buffed. Blade got buffed. Let's go. The first buff doesn't really affect me. Unstoppable duration provided from each use. That doesn't. I don't care about that. No bleed. Yeah. I don't. Why are they just gonna bleed on the ult? This doesn't. That's just less. I mean, they just made it. It made him easier. Like, I don't know. He's not really a hard character, so I don't know why they did that. This just made him easier. I rarely am ever in a situation where like I need the unstoppable duration for more than a 0.4. Because I mean, whatever you got hit by, it breaks it. You don't need it to last longer. Okay. I mean, I guess. Next. Elsa Bloodstone. The Bloodstone legacy glows stronger. Elsa is getting increased in her instinct accumulation speed for a slight bump in her baseline performance. Reduce the damage required to upgrade the passive skill inherited. What? Oh, it's for passive? So she's gonna get more passive for doing damage now without like getting a kill. Okay, got it. That's like, I mean, I guess. Moon Knight. Reduce crescent dart single. Oh my God, thank God we're nerfing Moon Knight. Can we make him 250? Moonblade damage from 80 to 75. Crescent dart single damage from crescent dart. Is that the Ankh?
Camouflage is
No, that's
stupid.
ancient Ankh.
I want the enemy to see me.
Oh, that's his basic attack. Oh, they nerfed his basic attack damage.
On your toes. Here they come.
25 to 23. That's not a lot, but I mean, it's better than what the fuck he's doing right now. Where he's just doing this shit. That shit is unreactable damage. Like how fast he's killing some people is unreactable.
Wow, 4 in a row.
And like and if you hit the right click on the person, they're just dead. If you throw this on and you hit the right click on the person, they're dead. Like, it's unreactable. Like, look at that damage. How is that fucking okay?
Talk about a winning
This shit is insane. This character's ass. Fuck this character. I actually hate this character. I'm so sick of this character. He just literally sits in the back and just throws shit. The easiest character, one of the easiest characters in the game. When crescent darts and moonblades bounce between bonks, the adjusted damage bounces from 80% to... Oh, the damage reduces the more it bounces. Moon Knight will now do less damage than bouncing among multiple targets. Oh, thank God. Or off onks. Oh, that's good. So like, good Moon Knights are gonna actually have to hit their shots. You do less damage if you use the onk compared to hitting a person. Good. It should have been like that in the first place. It should have been like that in the first place to make skill expression. Oh shit, Daredevil got nerfed. Man without fear needs to rely a bit more on his other senses now. We're reducing Daredevil's ability to scout enemy team positions while roaming the outskirts. Yeah, see, this is what I told you guys yesterday. Is his information, his ability to just get information for his team is just insane. Being able to see people through walls like that. Lowering his engagement distance. Okay, radar sense maximum detection from 50 to 40. Buck pursuit dash. That's a nerf of Doom. Damn. Wait,
Sometimes
so
it helps to have a teammate who sees
wait,
things differently.
wait.
Our enemies are near.
So this
I
won't
can
work from
feel
right
them.
here anymore. Oh my God. This won't work from right here anymore. You're gonna have to be... Oh, ew. You're gonna have to be like right here if you want to do the dash.
Double.
You can't do the dash from right here anymore. Oh man, that's a fat ass nerf. I mean, he's still gonna do fucking loads of damage and shit, but like,
That hit.
damn, that's not. Oh my God, that's a fat nerf.
Wow, 4 in a row.
That's a fat ass nerf. God damn. Objection duration from 0.5 to 1.5 to 1.2. Damn, this is gonna last less too. It's gonna be like this. Damn. It's only gonna be like that.
I can hear them getting closer.
Yo, that's a fat ass nerf. That's a fat ass nerf. Human torch, flame on, John, recently increasing
Yo.
touch mobility. 30 meter equivalent from 20 to 15. Oh, that's a big buff. Use plasma body, single charge, energized time from 10 to 8. Oh, that's a good buff. Yo, Kaku Jazz, thanks for the 3. Appreciate it, man. Or I guess 15. Namor, the King of Atlantis commands tied to stronger frequency or greater frequency. Namor's monstrous while getting a slight verges increase. What? Oh, Quantic Dominion cooldown reduction granted from Trident Neptune enemy hits from 1 to 3. 1.3. Bro, what the fuck? Bro, why? Why?
I am the ocean's
Why?
avenging sun. You will get
Why?
love from me.
He gets more squids faster now for hitting people. Because if you didn't know, when the more it throws these squids, the more shit he hits. I mean, no people he hits. It reduces the cooldowns of him being able to throw another squid. If you didn't know
Wow,
that.
4 in a row.
Oh, that's fucking annoying.
6 in a row.
Why?
Go.
The hell in the more team better be gone then. Oh my God, that's a lot of Black Cat nerfs. Felicia's luck might have finally run out. We're increasing the fortune cost of purchasing relics. Damn, decreasing the fortune acquisition efficiency, lowering her survivability and damage. Wow, that is a lot. That's a lot of nerfs. Damn. Oh, let's get started. Reduce Cat's Cradle damage from 50 to 40. Which one is Cat's Cradle? The shift? Yo, her burst is literally getting torn apart. That's gonna do less damage. Okay. Remove one charge and changing it to a cooldown. Oh my God. And reduce the cooldown from 10 to 8 though. Okay, that's a buff. The Phantom Pursuit damage from 75 to 70. Oh my God. Oh my God. They nerfed the iframe move, thank God, but like, holy shit.
Double kill.
Being ouch. Oh my God, they're nerfing the cost of the freaking 200. Oh my god, the invisibility is gonna cost 300. I mean, not the invisibility. Wait, no. Draws crystal ring is on a mental fish. Oh my god. Wait, why? This one's not that good. Unlocks crystal. That one's not that crazy.
You won't be needing that.
Cleanse. No one uses this that much compared to using this. This one is way more. Whatever.
Give me that luck.
Whatever. The main one is the mental fish and wait, what? I was gonna say the main one is this move
Stealthy.
and this move, but they just nerfed this to 300. 100 to 3 fucking
Who do we
hundred.
have here?
And it can no longer review behind objects? Oh my.
You won't be needing that.
Oh, yo, she got nerfed. Oh shit. Okay, that might. Okay, that might be too much. I can see 200, but like 300, I'm not even buying that shit no more, bro.
Fortune for
I'm not
me.
buying this 2 anymore. I'm gonna change my binds, bro. I'm not buying this shit anymore, bro. Okay, this move is useless. This move is actually so useless. I'm not buying that shit. The main appeal is that it can see people through walls. That is the main appeal. And or they should have. Oh my god, this angle's crazy. They should have made it so that if they're not gonna nerf it like that, they can make it so that her teammates can't see it. That would have been fine. But now you literally dead ass can't see people through walls like that. But it's useless. Yeah, this move is gonna be useless because everyone just shoots it instantly now. What does it do now? You can just see people.
Well, who do we have here?
It'll like you can send it into a team fight. Let's say your team's over there.
Keep your eyes
You
on
can
this
send it out
location.
and just see who's there on site.
Peekaboo.
You can just send it out and see who's on site. Let's say I don't know that guy's right there, and I don't know. I'm gonna send this out just to check. See, I know he's right there. It won't see that guy over there since he's behind the wall, but it will see that guy. Yeah, it's just gonna shot instantly, but at least you get the information for like 2 seconds. But at that point, you might as well just play Daredevil. But Daredevil just got nerfed too. His sense radar thing is 40, not 50 anymore. So like, I don't know. But I mean, those abilities are broken. Those shits need to get nerfed. Damn, mental fish is gonna be 300. Crystals 300. Ring is 300. Damn. At least they didn't nerf Helma Hades.
So stealthy.
This is like her best shit, in my opinion. So she's not entirely like nerfed, but is hella fucking nerfed. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah, you might be homeless if you play this character. Who's calling card? Oh my god, we're not done. Calling card ultimate ability dash distance from 60 to 40 meters. This means that eliminations refreshes the remaining duration instead of adds. Instead of current. Oh, nice. That's a maximum of 10. Okay, nice. That doesn't refresh any of those bullshit. Increase the cooldown. Increase ultimate second hit base damage from 30 to 70. Oh, that's cool. Boost percentage damage. Oh, it was doing percentage damage? For 250, total 2 hits. Boost from 110 to 100, 600. 2 hits from 180 to 100. Oh, that's fat. That's a fat nerf for percentage. Damn. Additionally, reduce the fortune gained from this attack from 300 to 200. Damn. We're looking at the wrong patch notes? Nah, I looked at the patch notes for 2x earlier. So on the throne was too good a cover. Wait, what? Oh, cage? Damn. That's a lot of nerfs. I feel like this was too much, but why does Phoenix have less nerfs than Black Cat, bro? Whatever, bro. Reduce the healing over time provided from detonating sparks from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. Cosmic flame damage fall off. Oh, her basic attack has higher damage fall off now.
Happy thoughts, everyone. If we stay focused, we've got this.
Just get rid of it. Yeah, I'm saying. It already heals from ulting. Cosmic flames damage fall off maximum 30 meters from 75% to 6. Damn, so at 30 meters, instead of doing 75% damage of her normal damage, she's only gonna be doing 65% of it. It's gonna be down from 75 to 65. Damn, that is crazy. And distance to KO at 250. Went from 18 to 16. What? Oh, she has to be at 16 meters to one shot. 250 now. Okay, so she's gonna have to be right here if she wants to two shot people. This won't work. Next patch. You'd have to be like.
I could feel your pain. Sorry.
What did it say? Well, that's where it's gonna work. It's gonna work right there, but it won't work from over here. You have to be close. You basically have to be close if you want to shot people. That's what it's gonna do from that range.
Double KO.
She's still gonna be Thanos, I think. I think this character's still gonna be top tier. Single hit damage. Wait. We're not done. Single hit damage reduced from 45 to 30. Oh shit, we're not done. Oh my god, that's a fat nerf. Good. Number of hits required to kill at 250 decreased from 5 to 6. Oh my god, thank goodness. Okay, her base damage got reduced too. So why the fuck did it get raised in the first place? These are good nerfs. Unfortunately, I still think she might be a ban. They didn't touch her core alt cost. I think it still won't be enough. Starlight, element guns damage fall off, maximum damage fall from 25 to 75 or 65 to 50. Doesn't affect his ult. Okay, these aren't bad. These aren't bad. I feel like Phoenix needed more nerfs. Black Cat got like double the nerfs Phoenix got, literally. Like Black Cat got like 4 nerfs here. If you're not, and we're not even including like the ones that are to his other abilities too that she can purchase. All right, I mean, I guess. Last but not least, supports. Strategist. The Divine Duo brings even more light to the shadows. Cloak and Dagger seem increase in baseline healing capabilities. Why? When life was directly reduced to single healing from. Wait, what? Reduced single target healing from 16 to 12. Oh, the burst heal was lowered. Wait, what? What? When Light Force Dagger directly hits allies. Reduce single target. Is that like just the what? What? I'm so lost.
Before we
That's the right click, no?
We had each other.
No, that's the left click.
That bond is unbreakable. Get ready.
So it's a nerf. Why did they write like that? Oh, because their heels like tether to people, right? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, keep reading it. Spell field from 16 to 20. The healing remains the same. AoE healing is increased. Oh, okay, I guess. Why though? He probably has like the highest healing in the game out of all the characters in my opinion. I think Cloak and Dagger heals more than any healer in the game. Especially because of that field you just sit on top of it. Reach the healing boost ratio provided by Veil of Light Force. What? What? Veil of Light Force. What was that?
Get ready.
Oh, it's Veil of Light Force. What the hell is that? Luna? I think Cloak heals more than Luna. Or E? This? Oh, that's what it's called? I see both target prisoners heal the same first. Why though? I don't think she needs this. I mean, why is it called Veil Life Force when the move is called Light Explosion? They wrote it wrong. It says deploy a Veil of Light Force, but the move's name is actually Light Explosion. So that's why I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? The actual move title, they put it wrong. You put the description, not the title. Whatever. Ultron is facing some minor technical difficulties. Ultron drone converges range taking a hit to load a buff release for by allies. Creative patch run distance. Oh, they reverted it? Or was it 25 before? I don't remember. Increase imperative firework cooldown from 10 seconds to 12. Yeah, I guess. Increase the energy cost of Rage of Ultron. Oh damn, oh damn. Damn. Black Cat got slapped. Like that shit is crazy. Adam Warlock. Increase auto life stream charge time reduction. Cosmic cluster hits enemies. Oh, that's a good buff. Deadpool strategist. Mercury Mouse handing out even more band-aids. Gun form healing. Increased bouncing bobblehead gets you his healing provide spell field from 40 to 50. 50 to 55 when upgraded. Okay. Hopefully them support pools can actually learn how to walk with the damn character though, unfortunately. The Raging Cajun's biggest hand is losing a bit of its sting. Oh my god, they actually nerfed the ult. Reduce the bonus damage multiplier provided a Rage and Roll Flush. 25 to 20. That's it? Movement speed from 40 to 30, that's it? I don't get it. I don't get it, bro. I don't get it, bro. Oh my god, Black Cat just came out and she just got shot with like a machine gun. Like, and this dude Gambit's been out since season 5. And he just gets slap on the wrist, slap on the, like, oh my fucking god. Just like more than that, bro. I need more, bro. Did you see the list of Black Cat nerfs compared to this? 25 to, bro, make that shit 15, bro. And what, no, what is it? Raging the movement speed 40 to 30? Make it 25, bro. And remove the jump shit. It's good their supports, bro. This shit is whack, bro. This shit is whack. I don't I still think he's gonna be top tier, man.
Get ready. Here come the bad guys.
Oh my god, this isn't enough, bro. Reduce the charm of Invincible's full field spectral surge. Spell field radius. I mean, I guess. Whatever, bro. Her charm move needs to get nerfed, bro. That shit, that move has such a low cooldown, bro.
Heroes don't wait for opportunity to strike. We strike
What?
first.
There we go, my bad. Son, this thing has a 6-second cooldown, bro. This move needs to get nerfed. Like, this charm move is insane. Like, when I was playing with Necros in that tournament, I was spamming the fuck out of this. Every time this thing was on cooldown, I would just throw it in. And it would help so much. It's so annoying because the cooldown is so low. Like, it's actually so annoying. I feel like this charm move should be like 9 seconds. I don't know what, 6 seconds. Whatever, though. That it? So you telling me Helen Moore is still in the game? Fucking Christ. Fucking Christ. Hey, that it pierces? I do too, but whatever, I suppose.
Clean elimination.
Moore got buffed too. The Moore did get buffed. Oh, it's like good and bad. It's like how do I feel about these patch notes? It's like I'm trying to think. It's like a few good, a few bad. Overall, it's better, yeah, but like the support shit is where it got like really bad. It's like, bro, what?
Close.
You guys didn't let loose when it comes to the tanks and the DPSs, but like the supports, you guys barely even nerfed them. Honestly, like the major nerf here is obviously Gambit, but it's not even that much. Actually, I'd argue Ultron got bigger nerfs. He got a nerf to his ult cost too. Yeah, we're about to play another season of Gambit. Oh, fuck me, bro. I guess another half season of Gambit, yeah. It's like, I don't know. What are people thinking? What is everybody else thinking? I don't think this is enough. I mean, I like the DPS changes and the Vanguard changes, but I would argue Phoenix should have got even bigger nerfs. Because look how much nerfs Black Cat got. And she just came out. Phoenix didn't get enough in my opinion. They should have nerfed her ult as well. If they nerfed her ult as well, I would have been content with that. But she still has like one of, if not the best ult in the game. DPS ults in the game. It's insane. He was a full health from it. It's like ridiculous. He was a full on heal from it. Let 10 use a poke slap, have fun. I mean, it's good Phoenix though. It's just that it's not enough in my opinion. I don't think it's enough. Oh my god, bro. Her kid is yeah. What it does, it's crazy. The util and stuff it does, it's just insane. The value it brings is just ridiculous, bro. I don't know what to feel. Like, it's just like, what? It's just like, what? Like, how do you guys just do that? Like, I don't know. Why did Ultron get nerfed? Yeah, we're got nerfed for the pro soon. Rivals, is this enough of a Gambit nerf? What is everybody saying? Get rid of the movement speed for teammates completely. Still a necessary ban. Yeah, Gambit's still gonna be a ban. I think Gambit's still gonna be a ban next patch. Chad, is Young cook or is this nonsense? And why did Namor just randomly get a buff? Bro, they basically got a Black Cat. I mean, yeah, she got slapped. I'm not gonna lie, Black Cat got murdered. But like, this is about to be the most boring meta in the lifespan of the game. What is Necro saying? What is Necro saying? No. I know Necro's probably not happy about these Black Cat. Both his characters got nerfed. Black Cat and leave game. Yo, don't get off.
I will rate her.
No, he's getting off.
Guys.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Okay.
It's so bad. It's so fucking bad.
I'm scared for the future, bro. Me too, man. It's so it's not looking right, bro. It's right.
He plays 3 characters. He refused to play anything else. He plays Black Cat, Daredevil, Spider-Man.
I need to hit a Turnus next season, if you know what I mean, bro.
A Turnus? He's about to get on Deadlock.
This is pretty bad. This is like, this patch sucks because they nerfed dive and not really hit scan that much, so it's just gonna be poke.
His characters, yeah. We're about to go back to poke meta, yeah,
so
probably.
I'm expecting more triple support than ever. I mean, maybe it would have been worse if they also nerfed poke, but not nerfed support, because then it would have just been triple support, which is probably worse. Like, I don't know. I don't think either of those is particularly fun in abundance.
Yo, he's not happy, bro.
Neither of those are fun. So yeah, I don't know.
His chat is
thank y'all for watching.
Angry, bro.
W patch notes. Can't wait for 8.5. Gonna be a great season. Super excited. Yippee! See you guys tomorrow. I have a preview stream tomorrow, which you guys will find out. Surprise! I have a preview stream. Obviously, I'll be playing Cyclops tomorrow. So yeah, I'll see you guys then.
Jeez, bro. Bro, both his characters just got gutted, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I mean, it's a valid crash out. This think about it. This is the equivalent of the patch notes, me opening patch notes and seeing Blade got nerfed to the ground and Salah got gutted. That's literally the equivalent. That's how it feels for him. Both of his characters just got nerfed. Like, what is he gonna? He's just gonna keep playing Spider-Man? Like, I don't know.
The hunt continues.
And they buffed him more, so it technically is even worse for him now. They just buffed him more. Damn, it's like good and bad. I don't know.
Can we talk?
Yo, that is I don't know, man. It's like, the patch notes to me is like, it's good, but it's bad. It's like, I don't know. I like the blade buffs, but like, imagine if this patch didn't have blade buffs. I'd have been so mad, bro. I'd have been like, this patch is ass. But I can't say the patch is ass because they adjust some things. They nerfed Dino. Rogue got buffs. I don't know who keeps buffing Mag, but whatever. Angela got buffed. Dino got buffed. Rogue got buffed. That's good. And the team up with Rogue got nerfed, so she's not a team up merchant. But where we have a problem is that like Black Cat got nerfed to the ground. I'd argue. I feel like they shouldn't have touched their ult, but I mean her ult was kind of crazy. I can't lie. But like they nerfed their other shit though, so I don't know. Phoenix didn't get enough nerfs. Star-Lord, I don't even like that. Doesn't even. It's not even that crazy. Element damage, maximum gun damage fall at 25 meters from 85 to 65 to 50. Who the fuck is shooting at 50 meters with Star-Lord? Or how much meters is that? 25 meters? It's not that crazy. I mean, that's not even like Star-Lord's like
time to do
I mean, you're
right.
just poking tanks from right here. What
Figure out what that is.
the fuck are you doing right here with Star-Lord for? You're just shooting into the crowd trying to farm ult. I mean, Star-Lord's like best areas like right here. Like 10 to 15 meters, like 10 to, yeah, 10 to like around 10 meters. Who the fuck is fighting at 20 meters with Star-Lord? I mean, 25 meters with Star-Lord. You don't hop on Punisher or something?
4 in a row.
That's why I don't really care about that. It doesn't affect me. That's just like a poke. That's like if you're just playing Star like an alt farmer. I guess if you're just farming off tanks. Damn, bro, that's fucking crazy. I don't know how I feel. These patches are like, See, what does Boger feel about the patch notes? What do you say?
I don't think any rank.
What is he doing? Boger's doing a challenge where he teams up with J3 and goes against the duo from Silver all the way to Celestial. What the hell? That's hilarious. Damn, and the Dino lost his knockdown from Flyers, so Flyers are gonna be getting played a little bit next patch. Yeah, we need more, bro. Like everyone's saying the same thing. These Gambit nerfs are not enough. Yeah, Phoenix is still gonna be stupid strong. Okay, it's exactly what I think it is. And I don't know how Cloak just randomly got a buff. How does it make any sense? I don't get how Cloak just gets a buff. Oh, whatever, I suppose. These guys hate Black Cat. D-Clawed. Hey, yo. Flanker phobia always wins in the flanker phobia. What? What? Flanker phobia is crazy. Donna gonna be unplayable. You can't do anything against Flyers. Oh yeah, if you're playing against Flyers down there, you're just gonna eat shit. Because think about it, if I'm Iron Man, I'm just gonna like, I'm literally just gonna keep beaming your ass like this, doing this, and this thing does his base. Iron Man's base attack does crazy damage if it's a direct hit. So this shit's gonna hurt. Or he just beam you, and then you're just gonna have to sit there taking that shit like a little good boy. And you just gonna have to keep eating that shit. You have Sky access tomorrow? Yeah. I'm playing test server tomorrow. I don't have the preview stream. Did they announce who has preview stream? I didn't get it. I didn't get early preview stream. I think they announced that in like 20 minutes. I didn't get it, but yeah, we're gonna play tomorrow. I have test server access though, but I didn't get the preview stream thing. So yeah, tomorrow we're gonna run up some DD. Oh, wait, I said DD. Whatever his name is, Scott. Yeah. So that'll be pretty fun. Wow. So happy I got new Dragon Quest monsters. Oh, that's cool. I'll buy if I can. Yeah, I'll be tomorrow at like 7, 6 or 7 or so on the time. Wait, that's not the same time for you. Whoops. 4 or 3 for you. 4 or 3 for you. When I'll start. And then on Thursday, I'm gonna play them all day. We're gonna play Cyclops all day on Thursday. The entire stream I'm playing Cyclops. We're gonna do like a 10-hour Cyclops session. Literally just test server. So that'll be fun. Unless what's today? It's Tuesday. Yeah, I think that's the plan. And on Friday, yeah, the update drops. Damn, Blade actually got buffed though. That's pretty cool. Overall, I'd say W patch notes, but they obviously missed some people. Like, I don't know. I don't think the Gambit nerfs are enough. The biggest complaints is that I don't think the Gambit nerfs are enough. I don't know how Cloak got buffed. And I don't think the Phoenix nerfs are enough. And I think Black Cat might have been a little bit overkill. Just a little bit. She was strong as shit, but like, keep in mind, she's still one of the harder heroes. Like, I don't think she needed to get nerfed that badly. I've seen bad Black Cats. Like, even the one we played with yesterday, I was outperforming. My Black Cat had 15 kills. I had 30 kills on Blade. I was outperforming him with Blade. Like, Elo terrorist. I mean, yeah, she did need to get nerfed, but gutted. I don't know about gutted, bro. Like, you have a character like Phoenix right there that's been meta for how long? Phoenix need to get gutted, or Gambit. Those two need to get gutted. They've been meta for so long. Black Cat just came out. And Helen Namor is technically just buffed this patch because Namor just got buffed. Keep in mind, they nerfed Black Cat this badly, and they just buffed anti-dive with buffing Namor. And in the last patch, didn't they buff Penny? She's fun, but she's not. I don't think she's like one of the easier characters. Like Phoenix is easier than Black Cat, in my opinion. Why? Because you can just sit in the back line just shooting. All you need is aim. And you have that stun with Phoenix, so like literally all you have to do is just do what? Right click and hold left click. You literally just do this and they're dead. Like, and they can't move. Like they're stunned. Like, there's not much you can really do about this if they're doing this to you. How did that was a ghost shot. That was crazy. And you don't even have to hit this right click directly on the person. You can just shoot at the floor and they're just dead. It's actually easier to do it if you don't hit a direct hit. Like, it's actually insane. Like, the way she deletes people is unmatched. Like, I don't know. Black Cat is losing at Ignite? Yeah, she's gonna get cooked at Ignite. Oh well. W patch notes, I guess. Clip it and ship it, I guess. Yeah, Star-Lord. Right, it's about to be the same shit. Blade could probably get played in Ignite a little bit, I think. Maybe, I don't know. That Scarlet Shroud buff is so random, but... Daywalker dash from 20 to 30. Pretty sure that's a nerf. I mean, not nerf or revert. They nerfed the spin. It was 8 to 10. Was it 12 before? I'd have to find the patch where they nerfed Blade spin. Wasn't that season 6, right? Marvel Rivals season 6 patch notes. Hero balance adjustments. Was this February? Season was this? Is Blade good now? I'm trying to figure that out. I think. I mean, it helps one of his issues that he had, but I don't. Oh, this is too far back. I don't think he'll be good now. I think he's gonna be okay now. It's just a revert. They reverted the nerf they gave him when he got the anti-heal on his sword spin. God damn, which patch was this? Game updates every month, so it's like kind of hard to. Give me a second. I think I found it. No funerals for the Daywalker. Oh, wait. It was before this. God damn it. I can't find the patch. Hold on. It was before this one. Hero balance adjustment, December 12. Let me see if it's this one. Nope, it's not December 12. November 14. Not November 14. Oh my god, how far? God, this dude gets changed so much. I can't find this shit. Not this one either. September 12. 22 to 24. You found it, Lee? No, it's not this one. This is the. This is the last one. That's season 6. I'm talking about the one where they nerfed his sword spin damage. I'm trying to see the percentage they nerfed it from. The one where they nerfed his sword spin. Remember that one? That was like season 5.5. I don't fucking remember which season was. That was where his win rate went down. It might have been 5.5. Was that 6? What was it? Let me see. Let me go to season 6 patch notes. Dude, I've done a video on this dude every patch because they kept changing him that I don't even remember anymore which one is which. Okay, season 6 patch notes, January 14. Oh, okay, yeah, this is it. Reduce damage from 15 to 8 per hit. But this is only on damn, it used to do 15? Damn, the spin used to do 15. Now it's 10. But oh, okay, so I guess technically it is a buff because the dash part is gonna do 30. Because there's a stab it does and then it does the spin. So it is a buff. Because it does a stab and it does a spin that does 8 per hit. It does 8 4 times. And that totals to what? If you like stack that, that's 32. Which would be the 32 anti-heal. I wish we get more training mode settings, bro.
No monster's getting the best of me.
Yeah, that's how much damage it does right now. Oops, hold on. Yeah, see, it does 20. That's 20 damage? Oh, that is 20 damage. Wow. So it's gonna do 30 next patch. Okay, so technically it is a buff.
Trying to ice skate uphill.
Because if you do the math, what was it? 20. I don't think they ever touched initial dash damage. 20 plus the 20 plus the, what was it before? What was it? 15 4 times? 20 wait, no. It was 80. So fuck. So 70. It's almost as much damage as it was before, but you got to keep in mind it anti-heals now. He used to do 80 damage when he did the sword shift. This used to do 80. I mean, obviously the damage now, what? 52, that shit got gutted. It went from 80 to 52. That's why everyone was like, bro, Blade just got a fucking nerf. So now it's gonna do 70 instead of doing 80. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, DD got nerfed. Bro, his ability to give his team his utility was just so good. Like, the info that he gave was just so good. I'm not surprised they nerfed that. This motherfucker can see people through walls. But now you get 70 with anti on stuff 80. That's not bad. That's not bad. I still watch Shirley. That's not bad. I'll take it. That is not bad at all. But the Scarlet Shroud one is so useless to me, though. I don't see why you would need that. It just made the character easier. That's it. For I guess new players. I don't know. Even though this character's already pretty easy. 0.4 is like I hit the parry every time. Like if I need to parry a Groot ult or something. Oh, I guess I can pre-fire it now. I guess if I think a Groot is gonna ult. I mean, I guess. I don't know. How much is it gonna last? 1 second. Okay. Yeah, it just made him easier, that's all. Whatever. I suppose. It's pretty good. That's not bad. It's not bad.